Well, if indeed the purpose of the Voice to Parliament was to improve the lot of Indigenous people, to bring them out of, to close the gap, as you say, reconciliation, as we once talked about it. If that was the aim, then surely we must expect there will be a point when we accomplish that aim, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 500 years, I don't care, but we expect an endpoint to that. But by putting this in the Constitution, it seems to me, there will be no endpoint. You will always be separate, you will always be different, and you will always be treated a different way.
Absolutely, and that is incredibly, that will prove to be more and more divisive over time. You're absolutely right. If the point of this Voice to Parliament is purely as a mechanism, it's a mechanism to close the gap, then there really is, then it's potentially quite counterproductive to enshrine it in the Constitution, because then presumably once the gap is closed, you've got this additional arm of the legislature that can't really be gotten rid of, except again through another referendum, which may or may not succeed. It just seems unnecessary to bring it to a referendum. But that is what Australians are being asked to do, and I actually think that the Voice to Parliament, in fact, I don't think it, I know it, because again, the Uluru Statement from the Heart tells us this. The website for the Uluru Statement from the Heart makes this very, very clear, that the culmination of this project, which is made up of truth-telling, voice, and finally, treaty. The culmination of all of this is a treaty. And the point of getting the voice constitutionally enshrined is that once it basically falls into the habit of perpetually just calling for a treaty, the legislature won't be able to dissolve it. And so you're going to have this perpetual voice calling for two Australias, which will be almost impossible to dissolve unless another referendum is called to do it. And again, we've got to be very clear here that this is not just a question of a Trojan horse coming into Australia through this voice. It's a Trojan horse, and the people bringing it in are actually telling us what's in the horse. And it's very important that, like, when you read the Uluru Statement from the Heart, which is what recommends the voice to Australia, it says that the culmination of everything that it wants to do is what it calls a Makarrata Commission. And when you go to the website of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, there's a drop-down which says Makarrata. You can read it. This is the word in the Uluru Statement. And it defines Makarrata for us. It says Makarrata is another word for treaty or agreement making. It is the culmination of our agenda. I repeat that. The Uluru Statement from the Heart, which is what is pushing this voice to Parliament, tells us all that a treaty is the culmination of our agenda. This is not some conspiracy theory, or if it is, it's an open conspiracy. Now, what kind of treaty are we talking about, Nick? Well, it's not all that clear. But again, if you go to the website, the Uluru Statement from the Heart, again, they say the quiet bit out loud. So no one can say that they're being secretive. And it says here, again, another page from the website here, it says, there is a potential for two sovereignties to coexist in which both Western and Indigenous values and identities are protected. Two sovereignties, Nick. Now, in political science, there is only one kind of entity that has sovereignty, a state.
Yep.
A state. And a sovereign state, by definition, is a political entity that cannot be controlled by anything outside it. They're basically saying that the culmination of this agenda is a treaty, and what they want out of this treaty is sovereignty.
There's no secrecy, as you say. I mean, the Prime Minister has said openly that he accepts the Uluru Statement's demands in full. So there it is on the table.